Eighth grade, welcome to class today. As we continue our study in world geography, the western half of the United States, we're going to take a break from our textbook and jump into a simulation or a live experience of what would have been going on during this historical time in the movement or the westward expansion in our country. So we're taking a look at what we just learned in lesson 5, chapter 5, lesson 2, and we're going to look specifically at the Oregon Trail. I've got a list of resources here for you and the directions that I'm going to go through and walk through how I'd like you to go about today's activity and experience. The first is you're going to click the link to the History Channel page to learn more about the Oregon Trail. So here's a resource. If you click this link, it'll open up this page to the History Channel and has tons and tons of information detailed on the Oregon Trail. If you'd like to learn more about what we've already kind of studied in terms of Lewis and Clark's journey and people's movement westward, this provides a lot more depth and detailed information. We're going to quickly watch this kind of introductory video to get the tone of what you're going to be doing today in the form of a virtual or simulation.
Our ancestors took the Oregon Trail. They helped make America what it is today, a nation stretching coast to coast.
Unlike the small countries and principalities of Europe, the United States was wide open. It was very, very sparsely populated, and in some ways still is.
In 30 years, 400,000 people living east of the Mississippi sell what they can't transport, uproot, and move. They include one of the first women's rights activists, the founder of Eugene City, Oregon, and Lucinda Brown with her family. It's a 2,000-mile journey to a new life.
To make the journey and have the promise of a square mile of land was a huge deal because it was all yours. It was all for the taking. The sky was the limit.
170 years after Lucinda set off, one of the items she took on the trail still exists.
This is going to be really something.
Unearthed from an Oregon museum and never before seen by her descendant.
Lucinda's pot?
A tangible family relic linked to a tragic past.
Leave me with your father.
Elias Brown developed chills, a fever, and it got to be really bad.
Come on, Elias. Come on.
The fact that she used that across the trail during all the events that they experienced is just overwhelming to me.
Dear Lord, receive.
Elias is one of 20,000 pioneers who never reached their destination.
Amen.
10 graves for every mile.
Lucinda had no choice but to go on. So on they went.
Video shows you a quick depiction of what life would have been like to travel the Oregon Trail and how difficult it would have been. You saw there that there was a promise to 1 square mile acre of land from the location where people lived in the eastern part of the United States to this western portion. So there was a huge motivation to go there, except it was really, really difficult to actually be successful in traveling this way. You saw here in the family, the father of the family died and got sick along the way due to some type of disease or sickness or illness. Other major difficulties would show up along the way, and I want you to try to experience what that's like. People who are interested in the Oregon Trail created a game called the Oregon Trail, which allows you to simulate your travel on the trail. So you're going to click the link that's provided right here to this original game. It's called Retro Games and brings you to this page. You click on this to make it full screen, and it's going to walk through how to go about getting started on the trail. Now, this is a really rudimentary or simple way in which you play the game, which you just by hitting yes or no or different numbers, you control the aspects of the game. So here you can see that you've got options. You may travel the trail, learn about the trail, see the Oregon top 10, which is the top scores. 4, turn off the sound. 5, choose manage options. Or 6, if you type in that number in the little choice tab here, that's what will happen in the game. So it's based on the commands that you give it. You're in control of what's going on. First, we're going to learn about the trail. We click the number and then click enter. Try taking a journey by a covered wagon over 2,000 miles of plains, rivers, and mountains. Try. On the plains, you will slosh your oxen through mud and the water-filled ruts, or will plod through dust 6 inches deep. How will you cross the rivers? If you have money, you might take a ferry, if there is a ferry, or you can ford the river and hope you and your wagon aren't swallowed alive. Ford the river means your oxen or your cattle are just going to walk right through the water because maybe it's shallow enough and it pulls you right through it. But it might not be shallow enough. It might cause a big problem for you. What about supplies? Well, if you're low on food, you can hunt. You might get a buffalo, and there are bear in the mountains, so you've got a way in which you're trying to provide for yourself those basic needs along your travels. At the Dalles, you can navigate the Columbia River, but if running the rapids with a makeshift raft makes you queasy, better take the Barlow Road. If you, for some reason, don't survive, your wagon burns, or thieves steal your oxen, or you run out of provisions, or you die of cholera, don't give up. You can try again and again until your name is on that Oregon Trail top 10. So notice it's listing all these difficulties that you're going to face, which are real difficulties that people faced while they made this journey. You just get to simulate it through this video game, and if you fail, if you die, play it again and again and again until you get the hang of what it means to actually try to survive with the supplies that you have. We'll go back to the original page, and let's begin our travels. I click number 1, click enter, and I have the option to choose who I want to be in terms of when I'm moving from one place to another. Am I a banker from Boston, a carpenter from Ohio, a farmer from Illinois? Find the differences between these choices. So what's the difference between the choices that I have? If I click number 4, I get to understand that traveling is easier based on maybe the skills that I have for those different positions. Traveling to Oregon isn't easy, but if you're a banker, you'll have more money for supplies and services than a carpenter or a farmer. However, the harder you try, the more points you deserve. Therefore, the farmer earns the greatest number of points and the banker earns the least. So depending on who you take or what position you take will depend on the score that you're going to have. We're going to be, let's say, number 2, a carpenter from Ohio. What's the first name of your wagon leader? You would type in your first name. I'll use my first name. If I click enter, it actually fills in names below. If you wanted to fill in the rest of your names, you could. Are these names correct? You would click Y for yes. It's 1848. That's the same year that Wisconsin became a state. All these people are traveling to Oregon in this place from Independence, Missouri. You must decide which month to leave Independence. Now think about which month that you're leaving, maybe how long you think it might take you to walk 2,000 miles or to ride 2,000 miles on horseback or with oxen. When would it be best to leave? When's the weather starting to be better at this Midwest portion of Missouri? I'm just going to guess April, just because it's spring still. It's not quite early into the summertime, and that gives me enough time maybe during the summer to travel. You're welcome to leave in any one of the months here, or if you click number 6, it actually gives you advice. If you leave too early, there won't be any grass for your oxen to eat. If you leave too late, you won't be to Oregon before winter comes. It might just be difficult. So you got to try and leave just at the right time to make it to California or to the West Coast. I'm going to pick April. Before leaving Independence, you should buy equipment and supplies. You have $800 to start in cash because you've sold everything else that you have, all of your property, all your possessions, and you're banking on this being the only thing that's going to be how you survive moving forward. So let's get started. You can buy whatever you need at the general store. This is Matt. It says, "Hi Matt, so you're going to Oregon. I can fix you up with what you need. A team of oxen to pull your wagon, clothing for summer and winter. Plenty of food for the trip, ammunition for your rifles, and spare parts for your wagon." Now it gives a list of what you're going to buy, and you have to fill in how many items that you'd like, and he's going to make suggestions for each one of these. Now number 1 says I want to buy oxen, so I type in number 1. There are 2 oxen in a yoke. I recommend at least 3 yokes. I charge $40 a yoke. How many yoke do you want? Well, he recommends 3, so I'm going to take 3. Click enter, and it calculates my price. 40 times 3 is 120. Number 2 says food. I'm going to click number 2, enter. I recommend you take at least 200 pounds of food for each person in your family. You've got a family of 5 people, so you'll need at least 1,000 pounds of food. How many pounds would you like? 1,000 pounds. Done. That only cost me $200. Next, I want to buy clothing. You'll need warm clothing in the mountains. I recommend taking like 2 sets of clothes per person. Each set is $10. 2 sets per person, so I've got 5 times 2 is 10. I need 10 sets of clothing. Ammunition. Click number 4. Click enter. I sell ammunition boxes of 20 bullets. Each box costs $2. How many boxes do you want? In boxes of 20, I can get 100 bullets. Let's say I want 5 boxes. 5 times 20 is going to give me 100 bullets. It only cost me $10, relatively cheap. And then spare parts. Click number 5. Click enter. It's a good idea to have a few spare parts for your wagon just in case something breaks down. Here are the prices. A wagon wheel, a wagon axle, and a wagon tongue that's attached to the oxen. How many wagon wheels do I want? So I got one wagon with 4 wheels. Let's say I want 4 extra. How many your wagon may only carry 3 wagon wheels. All right, so I only need 3 extra. How many axles? Well, there's 2 axles because there's 2 sets of wheels. So I'm going to take 2 extra axles. And wagon tongues, I'm going to take 1 of those. Got my spare parts. I should be set and ready. I click the space bar to leave the store. Are you ready to start? Good luck. Have a long and difficult journey ahead of you. You hit Control S, it'll turn off the sound, but that sound's going to play the entire time that this game is going on. So I hit Control S to turn off that sound, and now I follow the directions as I go. I'm leaving on April Fool's Day from Independence, Missouri. Click the space bar to continue. Here it gives me the conditions of what's going on, the weather, the health, the pace, how fast we're moving, and the rations, how much food we have. And now I have the options to say, what do I need to do to continue moving? Well, we're just getting started, so let's get on the trail. Click number 1, click enter. Spacebar to continue. If I click enter, it will size up the situation. You can see that the date goes by. It just keeps moving itself forward. It's telling me how many miles I've traveled and how many miles to the next landmark. You're at the Kansas River crossing. Would you like to look around? If I click Y for yes, I can look around. If I click N for no, then it doesn't allow me to, and I can move on to the next thing. I'm going to click Y. Here's the Kansas River crossing. Spacebar to continue. What do I want to do? Continue on the trail. Number 1. You must cross the river in order to continue. The river at this point is currently 625 feet across. That's almost 2 football fields wide, so it's pretty wide. It's 4.4 feet deep, which is pretty deep in the middle, which might not be able to walk across this river. That's going to factor into how we decide to cross each and every river we come to. The weather's cool, the river depth and width is given to us. We have the options to attempt to ford the river. That means to walk with the oxen across it. You could caulk the wagon and float across it. You could take a ferry or wait to see if the conditions approve. It's still pretty early in the year. I'm going to take the safest route possible. I think I'm going to take the ferry. Ferry operator says he will charge you $5 and you will have to wait 3 days. Are you willing to do this? I could wait 3 days, or I could try and cross the river as soon as possible. I'm not going to wait 3 days because that's a lot of time. We're going to say, are you willing to wait? No. Let's try and float the river. It seems like the weather's cool and the river's not that fast rushing, so maybe we can float the river. Let's caulk it, number 2, and float it. We're floating, we're floating, we're floating, we're floating. Uh-oh. Why are we stopping? Keep floating. Keep going. There we go. There we go. We're almost there. You had no trouble floating across the river. Sometimes you might sink. Sometimes there might be a leak. There might be damage to your supplies as you go. Click the space bar. Continue. And we're cruising again. We're moving. We're moving. We're moving. I'm going to click enter to size up the situation and look around. Now here it's hot. My health is good. The pace is steady and things are filling. But I'm going to try and maybe hunt in the middle of Kansas for some food. So if I click number 8 and click enter, now I can hunt. It's going to give me my hunting instructions. I'm going to use the arrow keys to go back and forth and move, and the spacebar fires the rifle so that I can move and then shoot. If I click the enter key at the same time, then it actually allows me to walk. So I'm going to click enter, space, and then have the arrows ready to go to be able to fire. Here's how it works. Click enter and I'm walking. There's a buffalo. If I click enter, I'm walking. Try and get this buffalo. Got one. I click enter and I'm walking. Whatever animals show up. So I've been successful in hunting the buffalo. Oh, there's another buffalo. We should probably go after him. There's a rabbit. Got a rabbit. Let's see if this guy comes over here. Got 2 buffalo. And we're filling up with... Oh, there's a deer. There's a deer. Space bars to fire. From the animals you shot, I get 1,853 pounds of meat. However, you were only able to take back 100 pounds. Okay, so here's a point to make when people were traveling west, that there were all sorts of wildlife out there because there weren't a lot of people, and people killed too many things. Mr. Jane just got 2 buffalo. I probably don't need 2 buffalo to feed my entire family. So I wasted a ton of meat in that way. So make sure that you do that the correct way. It's obviously something that you can play with and understand that it might be difficult to be successful. But once you've practiced, maybe you get better and better and better. All right, let's continue on the trail. Number 1, and we're moving. I'm at the Big Blue River crossing. What would you like to look around? Yes, please, let's look around. Big Blue River. Looks a little bit shallower, maybe a little bit smaller. Looks like people have tried to ford through the river. Let's see if that's how we're going to go about it. The weather's cool. The health is good. We're in a steady pace. Let's continue on the trail. We got to cross the river. The river at this point is 232 feet across and 2.6 feet deep. It's not very deep, so we're going to attempt to ford the river. That means to walk right across it. See, our oxen are pulling. They're pulling. They're pulling. And we lost some supplies. We lose 1 day to get those supplies to dry out. So sometimes there's difficulties that come up across this journey. One of the oxen got injured. We lost 2 days. We lost the trail. Maybe we need to take a little bit of a rest. Seems like some things have gone wrong for us right here. So let's stop to rest. How many days? Let's rest 2 days. Let that oxen heal up. And now we want to continue. I click 1. We're moving. Notice it's April 20th. And we're coming to, looks like an establishment, some type of settlement. We've got 785 pounds of food. We've gone 286 miles, and that just keeps going, 300 miles. Let's take a look at Fort Kearny, what's going on. Would you like to look around? Click yes. Here's Fort Kearny. Let's check supplies, see what we have. We've got 6 oxen, 10 sets of clothing, 90 bullets, 3 wagon wheels, pounds of food. It said we needed 2,000 pounds of food or 100 pounds of food per person. Sorry, 200 pounds of food per person to make it successfully, and we've already eaten up quite a bit of that. We don't have a whole lot of money left, so we might actually need to do some trading with what we have. If I try to talk to people, I can click 8. If I try to trade, I can click 7. If I talk to people, I click 8, and here you have Big Louie telling you something that's going on. In number 7, I can attempt to trade. It's like I've got lots of bullets. Maybe I don't need that many bullets. You meet another immigrant who wants 1 wagon axle. He'll trade you 80 bullets. I don't need that many 80 bullets, so I'm not willing to trade that. I click no. Okay, so by clicking these buttons, you can see what it is that you need to do. I'm going to continue on the trail after not finding anything that I needed in that town, and I keep myself moving forward. As you play the game, you might get more used to what is going on. Notice our landscape has changed as we're moving further and further and further. I might need to hunt. I might need to change my food rations. Number 5 is to change food rations. That means we're needing to, if things are filling, have less and less food so I can change what is going on based on my supplies. Okay. If I look at the map, you can see where I am. Number 3. We're only to Kearny or past Fort Kearny, so we're still not even to the Rocky Mountains yet. We've got quite a bit of time to go. Now I'm going to stop my video here and allow you to continue to play this on your own and play out to try and make it all the way to that west coast. What I need you to work on is trying to get as far as you possibly can and dealing with as many of these difficulties as can. When you're finished, the only thing you need to do is click on this Google form login and complete this reflection. At the top of the page it says, how successful were you? 1 meaning you died along the way, which might be a reality for a lot of people. 5 meaning you successfully made it to the west coast. Then I'm simply asking your opinion. You get full credit for your participation in this. What was your favorite part of the simulation? What was the most difficult part? And then you're going to check all of these apply that you may have experienced during this time. You'll notice that you might run into disease. You might have somebody who's traveling with you die. You might have to experience or repair something that was broken along the way. You might have to ration your supplies, or you might be running out of supplies. You may have had a decision based on your survival, as in, here's what is best for us in order to continue to stay alive. Because guess what? We've sold everything and we're going for broke for what it is to move all the way to this West Coast. And you learn what life was like on the Oregon Trail. So click all that apply to you and your particular situation, and those responses will be recorded for Mr. Shane to grade your participation. Thanks for your efforts. If you want to play this over and over and over again as many times as you want to see if you can be successfully making it from Independence all the way to Oregon City or to the West Coast, you're welcome to do this as many times as possible. Just need to make sure that you do it at least once and you filled out that reflection form so that I can see that you've completed today's activity. God's blessings.